Wow. Have you ever wanted to discover how to learn music, how to read faster with techniques? Well, you are in luck today. Howard Berg, Guinness record holder, the world's fastest reader, is with us today. And I'm super excited for this interview. So my name is Glory St. Germain from Ultimate Music Theory, and I am really excited that you are here today, Howard. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having me.
Well, we all have a bit of a story when we kind of think back of how we arrived to where we are now. So share with us, you must have been on a path, you must have been on a mission. I mean, you have an amazing accomplishment, and I know that you hold that record dearly. So how did you, what were your struggles when you first started reading that made you really want to explore how you could read faster?
I grew up in the projects in Brooklyn, and it was not a good place.
Yeah.
A lot of gangs. I was mugged over 100 times. I had knives in my throat. I was beaten with bats. My dad was pistol whipped. So not a fun. We moved when they raped an 88-year-old man. So when I tell you it wasn't a good place, it was a really. So I found one safe place in my neighborhood was the library. Gang kids would rather be dead than caught in the library. So I was reading a lot. And I was reading like the Theory of Relativity when I was 8. By the time I was 11, I had college reading. I went to college at 17 to major in biology. I went to the State University of New York, Binghamton. In my junior year, I got interested in how the brain works.
Wow.
So I said to the dean, I want to do 2 majors, psych and bio. And he says, well, you're a second-term junior. You haven't had one psych course. You have to do the whole curriculum in 1 year and take 6 science courses with 2 4-hour labs. And I had 3 part-time jobs. And he said, frankly, you're not smart enough. And that's when it hit me. They don't teach you how to learn in school. They tell you what and why to learn, but now I hear a song once on the radio and you know it your whole life.
Yes.
And you read a book like this, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and the next day you don't know any habits. So I figured out how to get up to 80 pages a minute with what I was learning. I did the 4-year psych program in 1 year. And then I took the graduate record exam in biology. So I reviewed 48 books in 3 nights, like biochemistry, cell physiology, genetics, plant systematics. I got 3 questions wrong. So, which was in the 99th percentile in the world. So they said, people say, do you remember? Well, if you get in the 99th percentile, you're probably remembering. And then I wondered, was it me or had I found a better way, a better mousetrap?
Right.
So I had a school and I taught this to kids 11 to 15. We gave them a 30-chapter book in lifelong developmental psych, which is a sophomore course. Remember, they're 11 to 15. They did it in 1 week, and 15 out of 18 passed the college course in a week.
It's just an amazing, when I hear your story, I'm moved. I mean, you're considered the fastest reader in the world. Guinness World Book of Records recognized you, I believe it was in 1990 for your.
No one's ever been in it again.
No one has ever even attempted that. I mean, congratulations, number one, on your massive success. I think, you shared a little bit about your motivation, what helped you. And so you obviously were passionate about learning and then decided, you know what, if I can do this, maybe I can help others. And I think as music teachers, we don't only read words, but we read the universal language of music theory, and then we transfer that into sound. So tell us about your musical background. I know you're a bit of a musician and a singer.
Yeah. Well, when I was very young, I used to sing in the street. My grandparents would make me sing in the park. When I was 9, I was in Temple. I got a contract with a choir. In 1962. I was getting $3,000 to sing for 10 hours, which was very good money.
Yes.
It would be about close to $30,000 today for a 9-year-old for 10 hours work.
Yeah.
To put it in perspective, my dad made $10,000 working 6 days a week, 12 hours a day, and I made $3,000 working 10 hours. So it was a lot of money. And I was in the vocal class in my junior high. And then I've been teaching myself guitar. That's what I'm doing now. I always like to try to go to something that challenges the brain.
Yeah.
And one of the things I like about guitar is you could spend your whole life on it. There's so many different. I learned chords really well. I can play bar chords now, which is the high watermark of guitar playing, as you know.
Yeah.
To get enough strength in your hand to push down, it takes a while.
Right. One of the things they always say that, you know, to write a good song, you just, or I guess it's a country song, you only need 3 chords and the truth, right? And you can write a song.
Now I'm trying to learn lead, which is it's almost like learning from the beginning over again, because now you're going to individual notes versus chords.
Yeah.
But I enjoy it. I use it in between my work. So when I take a break, I try to refresh my brain. You want to kind of clear out like having a pet when you're having like a sorbet at a meal to clean your palate. So I use the music to clean out whatever I was doing before I go on to something different. So it kind of presses the reset button.
It does. And, you know, I think as music teachers, you know, we're always looking for ways that we can help our students learn. And I know that we can really learn from you as far as how can we accelerate learning through implementing your strategies. Can you share a little bit about how we could learn faster using your technique, and how would that apply to teaching?
Sure. There's a few ways that would work. Well, first, let me show them how to learn faster, because as teachers, you read and you study. So I'll show you how to accomplish that better, and then I'll show you to apply that to which is the inverse of outputting the information.
Yes.
Okay. So as far as reading faster, find the book that you completely understand. Okay. So the only reason you're confused is how fast you're reading, not what's in the book. Mm-hmm. And read for a minute and see how far you get with a timer. And that will give you an assessment of your current speed. Now, to speed up, go to the second chapter, take your hand and have your eyes follow your hand one line at a time from the left to the right margin, as fast as you could comprehend. So as long as you know what you're reading, go quicker till you don't. And that's when you find out when it got too fast. Then slow down just enough so that your comprehension comes back. And at that speed, go for 5 minutes. And then go back to the first chapter and use your hand, and you'll go 20, 40% further. This is analogous in music. When you're learning a new piece, you play it super slow.
Right.
To get the chord movements and the transitions. And then as your motor memory is locking in the information, you start speeding up and speeding up till you actually get to this tempo that you want. So this is a good example of it's kind of similar in music. Now, as far as learning goes, there's only 5 things you need to learn to get an A in any subject. I'll tell you what they are.
Okay.
And I'll tell you how to learn them and then how to apply that in music. How's that?
Okay, that'd be great. The
5 things you need to learn are the words, the vocabulary. Well, in music, it's the notes. It's knowing the sheet music, because that's the vocabulary, knowing how to translate what you're seeing to your fingers, to your motor memory. When you get real good at music, you don't have to think where to put your fingers when you see the notes. They just go there. Like a typist doesn't have to think, where's the letter A? It's very similar in what it's doing, and it takes some time to do that. But in general, in reading, vocabulary, 80% of learning anything is learning words. And what words do you learn? They usually don't look the same. They're bolded, they're italic, they're in a table. The second thing you need to learn are the names. Who's in your book and what do they do? Analogous in music, who are the different composers and what is their significance? And that can go to classical music, and that can also go to more contemporary jazz, rock, country. There are styles, and there are people who are known in those areas as this is the guy you should be imitating if you want to get good.
Right.
This particular niche in music. So the name, who is it and what did they do? Mm-hmm. The third thing you look for, and it wouldn't be as much in music, but as any number, date, statistic, and formula. In music, it would probably be more knowing like a whole note, a half note, a quarter note, and so on, because it's similar to math. In fact, I've read that people who are good at music often excel at math as well. That children that have been put into music programs usually do better in their math courses as a result, because they've learned to think in terms of beats, and fractions and beats are the same thing. A half a note is 50%. It's a half, a quarter note. they're thinking mathematically. So it does wire up that mathematical concept. The fourth thing is in the book, there's usually headings and subheadings, particularly in nonfiction, section A, part 1, part 2, part 3. What is the 5 main ideas in each section? And lastly, any questions and answers. So the first thing I read, if I know there are questions at the end of a chapter, which is common in textbooks, even music textbooks, I read it first.
Yes.
I want to know before I start what the writer wanted me to know.
That's very interesting. I
find when I see it, that's important. They told me to learn this.
Right. Yes. And I think that you just really nailed it, Howard, because I don't think too many people do that. Myself included until now, because we usually just read, and then we get to the exams. So I think even as far as obviously music theory, I'm an author of the Ultimate Music Theory series, and I'm thinking now, well, wouldn't that be a brilliant idea to go to the end of the lesson? There's always a review test. Read the questions on the review test, and then go back and do the lesson to say, oh yes, okay, now I understand. I'm going to need to know that at the end of the test. So that's a great tip. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. I'll show you how that works from a neural perspective. When you read with a purpose, the brain amplifies the material related to that purpose. So I'm going to do an experiment to show you how that works. Look around you at everything colored red and memorize it. Just look around, everything in your environment color red, and lock it in. Okay, good. Yep. Now, close your eyes and recall everything you saw colored blue. And notice what happened. Red things got bigger and louder and brighter. And blue and everything not red got smaller and dimmer and lower.
Right.
So when you have a purpose, and if you know these are the 20 things they want me to know when I'm done,
right,
then just like the red, your brain is looking for those 20 things. And even at high speed, they pop. Like when you go to the mall at holiday time, there's thousands of people, you don't know them. And you don't want to, I don't know that one or that one. Then you see a neighbor or a friend, and you say, oh, look who's here.
Yeah.
And to see that person, you had to see all the other people.
Right.
That person had relevance to you. So your brain amplified that person and brought it to your attention. Right. The same thing's true when you read the questions ahead of time. Your brain will look for that data like it looks for people in a crowd, and it pops just like the faces in the crowd. Now, here's how to teach it.
Okay.
I like to use index cards, and I have them on steroids. This is how I use it. So on one side of the card is the word, the other side is the definition. On one side is the name and what they did. The other one side is the number and what it means. One side is the key word and the main and an idea. It might be like, what are the 5 causes of disease? And I put them on the other side. Or what's a quarter note look like? Just whatever it is, the answer's on the other side. And then questions and answers. So you shuffle the cards, and if you get it right, you don't have to learn it. You know it, but you won't get them all right. When you get it wrong, here's how you can learn it. And this is kind of relevant to music. Music's very much repetition. You have to wire up that brain.
Yes.
You get it wrong, write it down 25 times while saying it aloud. And the reason you're doing that, one, it's repetition, but speaking is different than looking. When we can't spell words, we can often write them because we don't write letters when we talk. We write letters when we write. So it's a different part of the brain. So you write it down 25 times, saying it. So that's another part of your brain that talks. You're hearing it because you're saying it, and you're seeing it. Does it make sense? The more brain you use, the more stimulation you get. The faster you learn, the more you remember, and the more ways to recall it. In music, repetition is extremely important. I know every teacher teaches go slow, slow it down, use a metronome at the lowest speed, and get it down. And
you definitely know the drill, Howard. So one question maybe that you've been asked before is that when we read faster, like I'm assuming people think that you're going to miss a lot of information. So what's the secret to the comprehension when you're doing speed reading?
I actually read in 3 stages.
Okay.
First, I skim, and I skim fast. About 2 seconds a page. You say, what can you learn at 2 seconds a page? Here's what you can learn. Are there pictures? Are there diagrams?
Right.
Are there tables? Are there word definitions? Are there sidebars? Is there bolding of special fonts or colors? Is there a glossary? Are there questions at the end? Is there a summary? Is there an index? Is there a contents page? I'm finding out what the right or left is a bread trail to draw my attention to things that are more relevant. I'm also getting the big picture. If I was to learn this, what would I know how to do? I don't know how to do it.
Right.
But if I did read this, this is what I know how to play jazz.
Right.
I would know how to do a lead, a rock lead. I can't do it, but this will give me the data on how it's done. So that's what I'm doing on stage 1. So now my brain is kind of looking at the organization. I'm seeing where it's going. One of the advantages, let's say there's an appendice. How many times have you been in a book and then you got confused and then you got to the end and said, if I knew this was here, it wouldn't have confused me. Well, you read like a first grader, first page, first chapter, first sentence. You don't know what's 500 pages later. I know what's coming before I get there because I skimmed.
Wow.
And if there's something at the back I can use at the beginning, I don't wait till I'm at the end. I use it when I need it. Or if there's a picture on the next page, maybe it's a fingering. I'm not understanding the description they're giving, but the chart on the next page shows me the fingering. And I know it's there because I saw it.
Right.
So now I don't stay confused. I go to the next page. I look at the graphic of the fingering. Then I go back and I can picture what it's telling me more acutely. There's a good example. Then I read at my best comprehension rate. I have a pen or a pencil in my hand. If something doesn't make sense to me, I put a line in the margin. I don't highlight. It takes too much time. Line in the margin says, I didn't get it. I read it, but I don't understand what I just read, because that happens.
Yes, it does.
And then I put a star in the margin next to something. I need to know this and remember this. This is really important. Now, when I go back in my third step, I'm looking for my lines and stars. And I'm analyzing the things that confused me to make sense of it. And then I determine, do I need to know it? And I'm looking at things I need to memorize, and then I put them on my cards, and I do the memory strategy. So by breaking it into different skills, reading by itself isn't learning. Reading is looking. Most people measure their learning by hours or pages. I read 300 pages. I read 4 hours. I did a graduate course in educational psych in 7 hours. Now, it was a 400-page book. I read it 4 times. The AP test was 6 hours. I finished in 50 minutes. I thought it was an hour test. And I got a B+. Now, I didn't get an A, but I didn't need an A. I was trying to get 4 graduate credits because I was a teacher. And you need credits to keep your license. I only wanted the credits. I didn't even want to learn the course. I wanted the credit. So a C would have been fine. So for my purpose, a B+ was more than enough.
Absolutely.
And if you can get 4 graduate credits in 8 hours for $65,
that's crazy.
It's a win.
Yeah.
One of my kids did 4-year college in 6 months. He went to Thomas Edison, which is Rutgers online program, and using CLEPs, they let you do 90% CLEP. He got his full 4-year degree in 6 months. Not typical.
Yes. Yeah.
He wanted to be a missionary. So for his purpose, he didn't really care. He wanted a piece of paper that said he graduated college so he could be a teacher. Yeah. That was all he was interested in. He wasn't looking to go to medical or law school. He just wanted a paper that said, yes, he finished college. He can teach.
Yeah. And I think when you've said so many things that are resonating with me, Howard, as a teacher, as an educator, and as a forever student, I'm always looking to improve my skills. And you're right. Sometimes you just want to get through the material quickly. And other times, if you're going to be teaching it, you want to really absorb the information, because, you've got to reiterate it and implement what you've learned to help others learn. And I guess being a musician and an educator, when you are learning to read faster, does that improve our writing and our creativity?
Reading and writing are inverse. Reading is input, writing is output. I wrote a book in 5 hours. It went #1 on Amazon the next day. It's very easy to do, by the way. It sounds hard. It's not it's not hard. It's not hard. A normal person could write a 40 to 60 page ebook in 3 to 5 hours easily. Very easily. It honestly.
Okay.
I have 11 to 15-year-olds. We taught them the system. They did 28-page MLA cited reports. It was a religious program, so it was on the book of Matthew. And the person I worked with had a PhD in theology and was teaching at a seminary. And just as a test, he went to the dean of the seminary and he said, "I can't grade some papers. Can you help me?" Didn't tell him it was kids, so he presumed it was the graduate students that he was grading. 2 of the kids, remember they were 11 to 15, got second-year graduate credit. 2 of them got first-year graduate credit, and the rest got senior credit. And he says, I'm a little disappointed. It's a graduate program, and a lot of them got senior credit. He said, well, the oldest student you graded was 15, and the youngest was 11. So senior college writing level at 11 years old, it's not so bad.
That's amazing.
I do have a program on how to be creative. I could show you how that works. I told you I wrote a play.
Yes, I want to hear about the play, because when we talked, before the interview, I was so thrilled to hear about your musical background and about this big project that you've taken on.
3 years.
3 years. See, it takes a long time. I know. Don't ask me how long it took me to write 50 books. There's also research involved, and formatting, finale, and putting music in and writing songs and all the other things that have to.
I invented a whole new music technique. That's why it took so long. It was something I took 460 songs. I'm Jewish, so it was about the second coming. So right there, it's like most Jews don't write about the second coming. Right there, it's off. It's not on your normal thing. Right. And what I did, I took songs from the Beatles, the Moody Blues, all these different groups, and the Gestalt pattern. I'll give you an example. So you have Simon and Garfunkel, Silent Night, which is got in the background, Richard Speck killed all the nurses. It's kind of depressing. The next song is Melanie. Look what they've done to my song, Mom. And it goes along. So each song carries the story forward. Then we get to George Harrison. He's reincarnated, living in the material world. Right. And then Jimi Hendrix, manic depression, doesn't know who he is. And then he becomes self-aware, and and the beauty of the music is music affects emotions directly. One of the things I love about it's like solid emotion. Yes. So using music rather than just words, you can create states. Mm-hmm. You can put people into the experience of enlightenment and going through this transition. Yes. And like they're in the story instead of reading or watching the story, because it's hitting emotions. And so it took 3 years. I had to listen to all these thousands of songs, and then I had to put them into a pattern, and then I had to record them. I had to that's why I didn't make it professionally, because it wasn't my music. Yes. It's like taking a mosaic of different people's stuff, but these were whole songs, not just a snippet. Right. And I respect copyright law. Mm-hmm. You can't sell someone else a song because you put it in a pattern. Right. It's that song. I think one of the powerful things that you said, though, Howard, is that music does create state. And I know for myself, if I'm going to be presenting, a workshop or a live event before I go on to speak, I have certain music that I listen to that puts me in state, that lifts me up, that puts me in the mindset of serving others. And it can also, if I'm exhausted, give me energy, because all of a sudden, I'm moving, and it really is profound. I mean, when you think about having music for a funeral or a scary movie or a military moment, right? They don't play lullabies on the battlefield. They don't play military marches in the nursery for a reason. Exactly.
Exactly. And I think, are we going to like have an opportunity to somehow experience your giant 16-hour musical? Is that going to be available at any time?
If you'd like, I'll give you the first one to listen to. I can't put it on the internet because again, I don't know, I might get sued. You know,
I think there is. I don't think you can charge for. I'm not sure, but we should.
I'm not sure. I don't. That was the only reason I didn't share it.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to denigrate someone else's work.
Yes.
It is a unique. I mean, the way it's put together, it's totally new.
Yes.
But every piece of it is someone else's. It's the way the pieces are put together, and so. As a writer, I try to be respectful of other person's work, but I would share it with you if you'd like, so you can.
Absolutely. I just would love to experience that because, I think not only have you, risen to the, Guinness World Book of Records in your own speed reading, but you're also helping so many other people, and you've created the Berg Learning Speed Reading Genius course online, and I'm
BergLearning.com. Yes.
Yeah, I'm so excited because I actually signed up for the course, and I am in just week 1, day 4 in Speed Reading Genius, and it's absolutely amazing. Now, I'm not going to share because it's so embarrassing. Actually, I watched the video, and then you had the timer, right, to read for the 1 minute. So I set it, and then I started reading, and then it went ding, because it shut off. And it actually scared me because I was so focused on reading as fast as I could. And then I realized how really terrible it was. I'm a reader that I always read with a pencil, and I'm an underliner. So I think my reading is slow because I underline, then I put a little star, then I think, well, this is really good. I could use this in my teaching. And since reading your course, and I'm only on day 4, and then I went back and using your techniques, I have actually doubled my speed reading, doubled it in it's been 4 days. So I went, oh my goodness, imagine how amazing I'm going to be and how more effective I can be in my teaching because I've a lot of emails to read. I'm an ever student. I've got a lot of studying to do. So this is brilliant. And I just wanted for you to share a little bit, what was your motivation and inspiration for creating this online course, and how can I want to make sure that they get the website on it. Someone just said, what was the address again?
Oh, Berg Learning, BERG learning.com. Berg Learning. I think, I was a teacher for 10 years in New York when I got out of college. My job interview was, teachers get killed here. Do you want the job? And I was 21. I went, nailed it. I should have ran. What teachers went out on stretchers in 10 years? One was in a coma. They beat him unconscious. It wasn't an easy job.
Yeah.
I was teaching in a high school where 2% graduated. Wow. Can you imagine? 98% dropout rate. So I volunteered to teach learning to help bring the numbers up. And the principal says, well, it's not in the curriculum. Can't do it. So I'm teaching biology. One of my kids comes up to me and he can't do the homework. He doesn't know how to find the questions and answers. So I'm showing him in the biology book that I'm teaching from how to do the homework that he asked help from. And the principal comes in and asks me what I'm doing. And I told him, he says, you're not working. I told you not to teach learning. And you're not supposed to be doing that. Yes, BergLearning.com. Correct, Christopher. And I said, the kid asked for help. I'm his teacher.
Yes.
You weren't working. He wrote down, I wasn't working. I was helping kids learn. It wasn't my job. And I quit. That was I quit after that. I couldn't deal with that kind of attitude towards children.
Yeah.
And I opened my own school, and I'll give you just some examples. Stephen Terry graduated University of Texas Arlington at 16, 4.0 economics major, had a master's in math at 19 at OU with a 3.97. He's a professor at Yale. Micah Stanley became an attorney at 19. Brad Voller did the 6 months, 4-year college degree. Justin Brummett, 11-year-old C student, 22-year-old English professor. One of my favorites, we had a young lady who had 3rd grade reading in the 9th grade, so they put her in special ed. When we got done with her, she got her 2-year degree with a 4.0 when her friends that she was in high school with got high school degrees, went to Baylor on a full scholarship, had an A average and a master's degree at 22. So this is a kid they put in special ed that had a master's degree. To me, that means you have a responsibility to do this. I just trained the Royal Thai Army, the U.S. Special Forces, and I just did Arizona State University, the largest college in the country, Florida, Miami-Dade College, another very big college. I feel like I've been given ability to do something. I was a yogi when I got out of college. I got interested in meditation and yoga as a yogi, and I believe in karma. I think if you've given a gift, you're supposed to use it. The world's in trouble. I remember one person say there's too many smart people making too many good decisions. Anyone watching the news, that's not what's coming out of it. There's too much brilliance going on. So one person thinks they're very brilliant. But
I think you're so right, though, that when I'm just vibrating right now, Howard. We just have this cosmic connection, because I am like 100% about education. And for myself, I struggled. I always thought I'm not the brightest light bulb in the package. My teacher told me that someday I'd be a brilliant teacher. And I kind of questioned that, because she didn't, give kind compliments readily. And she said, the reason I'm telling you will be a brilliant teacher, she said, is because you struggle so hard with what you're learning that you have to find simpler ways to understand it and to and then therefore to teach it and explain it as an educator. I wish I would have had your course, and I'm so glad when I have it now, but
you're young. I had an 84-year-old read 3 books in 3 hours, Ruth Lubin. So you're nowhere near 84. I can see that. I'm 70.
Wow. And so let me ask you a question. So how do you continue to develop your speed reading? Like, would you ever challenge your own record? Do you still continue to read at that level today, or?
Well, my eyes have changed. I got when I was in my 30s. I can't see the whole page at once without glasses. So I'm going to say I've read 30,000 books. So my understanding is deeper because I have more information to tie it in with. So I can see things people are missing because I have patterns from different disciplines that aren't in their brain. Right. So I can see patterns that I'll give an example. Let me show you how to solve the energy crisis, put everyone back to work, and eliminate the U.S. deficit, or 90 seconds. That'll give an example. Okay. Electricity, how do you make it? You spin a magnet around wires, or you put wires in a magnet, you spin it. How do you spin it? Well, if there's water, like Niagara Falls, you use water. But mostly it's steam. How do you make steam? You boil water with oil, gas, or coal, or nuclear fission, which is kind of not as often. Well, there's another way. And in Iceland, they use the heat of the magma because it's a volcano, and it's green because it's the Earth's heat. There's nothing to burn. Well, in the U.S., we have a super volcano in Yellowstone. Right. 300 miles of magma. And there's lots of water. That's why there's all the water shooting up from this. You use the geothermal, you get the oil, gas, and coal companies put up the money. So it's not taking away from them. It's building the next step. It's got to be easier to find magma in Yellowstone than a new oil field with all the exploration they've done already. It's not easy to find big fields anymore.
Well, I think you're really, by just even exposing people to education, not only are you learning to read faster, but you're comprehending, and then I think it connects us, right?
That's it. Connecting is. Then I have a program on how to do that, and so ultimately, and I'll show you how that works in a second. So then you get the people whose jobs are being displaced to build the infrastructure. It's on federal land. You charge a usage tax, and you pay off the deficit. Now, that's just an example, but I'll show you where brilliance comes from. And actually, music is related to it because it has to do with symbols. When I was studying Carl Jung, he was very big on consciousness and symbols. Mm-hmm. And there's 3 levels of learning. This is even in music: literal, implied, and inferential. Literal is what you see. Right. Implied is what they assume you know. So if I say the woman wore a dress, you know what a dress and a woman are. I'm assuming you know that, or I can't write anything. And the 3rd level is you really get it. So like learning what is a note, learning to play, but you kind of have to think a whole lot to do it. And then you're just playing. and you can make it sound however you want, because you're at that high level where you've mastered your instrument. It's an extension of you. Those are 3 levels. Well, if I draw a circle and I put a point in the middle, what do you see? A circle with a point. That's literal.
Right.
On the applied level, it's actually the symbol of the sun. In astronomy, it's also the symbol of the sun in astrology, because they were once the same thing. They're not anymore, but they were back when the symbols were first devised. Now, on the 3rd level, it's the meaning of life. Let me give you how could that be? It's a point with a circle around it. A point symbolizes spirit. It's infinitely tiny. You can't see. There's a million points wherever you look, but you can't see any of them. Spirit's everywhere. It's invisible. So point symbolizes spirit. The circle symbolizes a boundary between inside is you and outside the circle isn't you. So it's saying everyone at the center is one thing. It's all one thing that appears and looks different, seems different, acts different. So brotherhood is not a euphemism. We are one thing. We look different and we seem different, but at our center, everyone is one thing.
Yes.
That's a higher level than it's a circle with a dot in the middle.
Right.
Okay. When your brain is thinking at that level, you can compose, you can write books, you can solve problems, because you're seeing beyond the obvious to the interconnectiveness of things.
Yes.
How this is connected to that. And then you have great music that does that. Like there's the music of the cosmos. You have that I think Mayer he did the cosmology, the different planets.
Yes.
There's a good example. A lot of musicians, they'll capture a sunset or love.
And you're right. They see the image, and oftentimes, even when I'm teaching music, we might play a piece, and I'll say, "What close your eyes, and what do you see when you play that? Do you see the water? Is it calm? Do you see the moon reflecting on where does it take you?" And what's interesting is that children will describe more differently than adults do. When I'm teaching children, their imagination is more vivid sometimes. Adults are more inclined to say, "Oh yes, I guess I'm at the lake." And I say, "Well, is it hot outside? Are you freezing?" Be more descriptive. And I think just, in sort of bringing our conversation to Dot, what would you say, Howard, is maybe in connecting with other educators, what is the one thing that you see as missing from today's learning to really help us as educators be truly effective?
Very easy. How to learn. We don't teach how to learn. We teach what to learn.
Yes.
Even when you're teaching music, you're teaching them the notes. You're teaching them the keys. You're teaching them the fingerings, but you're not teaching them how to remember it, how to recall it, how to lock it in, how to get the bigger picture, how to connect it. So when we taught our kids, the first thing we did was taught them how to read, how to write, how to memorize, how to do math. So before they learned any content, they learned how to learn content. And I think in any discipline, if you didn't just give the student, let me do an analogous. I teach you how to drive. You're ready for your road test. You go out and you take your test. You failed it, but you were ready. Why did you fail? It was a test. I got nervous.
Yes.
Okay. What if I taught you how to stay relaxed during the test, and not just how to pass the test, but how to stay calm?
Right.
So emotional intelligence, when you're teaching music and a student is frustrated or they're not centered, what are you doing to get them back to their center and keep them there? Because that state of mind is disrupting their learning. So there's 3 things you need to do in learning. You have to use words that make sense to them, not just to you. You have terms that are meaningful in your world, vocabulary and you have to teach them the vocabulary, but until they learn it, it isn't helping them, it's confusing them. Right. 2, how do you remember what you just taught them? So after the lesson, they don't just have a lesson, but you explain how to retain and recall the lesson so they can use it when they need it, which is missing in most education.
Absolutely. That's a big one. That is.
And the third is the state, how to control your state so you don't get frustrated and give up. And I bet a lot of the people who quit, it's because there's a point, there's a transition in music where it's starting to come together, but it hasn't quite yet. And some people give up. It's too frustrating because it takes a little bit more effort to lock that in to their consciousness.
Yes.
And if they were in a better state and not frustrated, say it's taking too much work, it's too hard, I can't think about two hands at the same time on the piano. I can do this hand or I can do this hand, but
Yes.
at the same time. And so what's happening is their emotional state is not their intellectual capacity to learn the instrument, not their intellectual capacity to learn music, but their emotional immaturity and lack of self-control that's creating a barrier that needs to be eliminated. And all these things can be done. And you'll see in my program, I cover all that.
Yeah. And these things that you're talking about, Howard, they're like essential for teachers, teaching for more years than I care to admit. And you're just giving me so many aha moments right now with your words. They're just so resonating with me that we're teaching concepts and, you know, patting them on the back when they get it. But children learn differently. And even in my experience, sometimes you have that don't get it. Well, whose fault is that? Well, for me, it's my fault. I'm the teacher and I need to help them learn how to learn before just dumping all this music on them and say, come back and, oh, you know, you have to learn how to right hand staccato, left hand legato, reverse, like all of these and expression. And before that happens, they have to really be nurtured in how can they learn and learn effectively with their own learning style, right?
Let me give you an example. In my program, and you've been there,
Yeah.
I'm trying to make it more visual. Most people read, they're listening to text in their head with a voice, not slowing them down. So I wanted to make it more of a movie.
Yes.
And so there's a transition between hearing and seeing where you can't read at all.
Yes.
Because it's the confusion that turns on the more visual part of the brain. And most people in the past would give up. They got confused. They figured it isn't working. They quit. Now I tell them, I'm getting you confused on purpose. That confusion is going to turn on the part of your brain that's going to help you read faster. I want you to feel confused. And the more confused you feel, that you can relax because you know it's working. That's a hypnotic induction.
Yeah.
Okay, you can use that in music. When you sense someone is going through a barrier, which they do, you know where they are. You've seen them. They happen in every student. You get to a level, and then it's like you can't get to that next level till you pass that ceiling. It's not going to happen tomorrow. This might take a few months. It might take a few years, but you'll get through it.
Yes.
It's that barrier that's causing the frustration. So if you said, I know right now you're feeling frustrated. I felt the same way. Everyone does.
Yes.
That's how the brain learns music. And what's going to happen is with practice, this barrier will start dissolving, not all at once and not in one day, but you can relax because you know what you're experiencing right now is exactly what you need to experience to become an expert at this instrument. And you're doing precisely what you need. All you need to do is give it a little more time. Stay relaxed, and you're going to see amazing things happen in the very near future. That's a difference between that student continuing with the lessons, and pushing through the barrier, and that student saying, this is just too damn hard. I had enough. And that's what's happening when they cry, when they stop. It's this is too much. I can't handle this. And that's not a music skill. That's an EQ skill. And we have to train music teachers on how to recognize that.
Absolutely.
Create states so they can pass through it comfortably instead of being frustrated and giving up.
Yeah. 50% of students quit music lessons within the first 3 years of learning.
Makes sense.
And the number one reason they quit is because they think it's too hard. And the reason they think it's too hard is because music teachers, myself included, and I feel bad about this, but you and I are going to change this, is that music teachers are not teaching students how to learn. They're teaching them how to play an instrument. They're teaching them music theory. And you know, although I'm an NLP practitioner and I study.
There you go. Then you know.
I do know that we need to help teachers learn how to teach how to learn. It's different than teaching just the subject of music.
Right. it's a big part of where your dropouts are coming from. It's EQ skills. It's not, they just, and there's so many ways you can create inductions and verbal patterns that would eliminate, just like I did. So I went from having a lot of people say, this doesn't work, it's too hard, and giving up, to having like a 99% success rate.
Right.
The only people who don't learn it are people who don't speak the language they're trying to read in. I mean, it's someone who's like speaks 10 words of English and wants to speed read. I can't speed read in a language I don't speak either. You can speed read in the other language, but not in the one you don't speak. You have to build vocabulary, and I show them how to do that. And then people who don't follow directions.
That's true.
And you've had that, I'm sure, in your practice. I had a student, I specifically tell them, read a book that's easy. So the only thing confusing you is your speed, not the book. I even said it today. So this kid was using calculus. I said specifically, bad books would be calculus, organic chemistry, existentialist philosophy. Most people find that confusing. So this guy's reading a calculus book and isn't learning to read faster. I said, well, are you good at math? He says, no. Have you ever studied calculus? He said, no. I said, so you're trying to learn calculus and speed reading simultaneously, and you don't know why you're having a problem. Didn't I tell you not to do that? He says, I didn't think it mattered. Well, what do you think? What happened? And what happened? Of course it matters. Why would I take the time to say, pick a book that's comfortable for you? The same as music. You don't start them off on Rhapsody in Blue on the first lesson. There's a reason. You know, you go to Three Blind Mice. Something analogous to that. So they experience success immediately. Look at me, I could play a song. And you go to a song that's a little more complex and a little more and a little more. And it's the same thing here. It's the same thing. The brain has to go through stages to wire up the hand-finger coordination between the music and the instrument and the brain. And it doesn't happen in one day, but it does happen over time.
It does. And I think we just need to take that step back and take a minute to really learn how to learn, so that we can move forward as educators, but also as just, you know, anything that else that we want to learn in our life. We're not just only learning about music, but we want to learn about, maybe, you know, how to do gardening, or how to do that. Like, just anything that you're reading, that speed reading is going to come in.
Yes. I have a question on the screen. Can we Christopher, it wasn't a teacher, it was the principal. It was the principal. And why did he say it didn't matter? Because he was a bad principal. That's why I left. The kids were bad.
And things were bad.
Kids. I expect kids to be kids. They're children. I expect the person with a PhD in education to be at another level than a 15-year-old kid.
Well, I guess in closing, how can our listeners learn more about the Berg Learning and get started with your course?
Go to berglearning.com. There's a bunch of programs, but start with reading. If you get everything, that's great. But definitely, we say lead with read. Because the reading program is really a learning program. I'm not interested in how you read. I'm interested in how you learn. I'd much rather have you read 100% faster, remember it, understand it, and be able to use it, than go 10 times faster and not know the name of the book. You wrote it the next day. So to me, it's about learning.
And I'm just super excited about learning more, and I just can't thank you enough, Howard. It is really an honor to interview you and share your amazing program to help teachers and musicians improve their speed reading and develop their musicianship skills. So again, go to berglearning.com and just enjoy learning, and of course share that with your fellow musicians and
music helps you learn. I often play, I prefer very soft, like almost spa or yoga kind of music in the background when I'm dealing with deep learning, because it calms the brain down. It puts you in your center.
Well, we will say, have a relaxing and a day. We'll have to put some music. I should have brought some music just to end our.
And send me an email. I'll send you a link to some of my the music thing I wrote.
That would
be. I wanted to talk to you also about some other opportunities I wanted to share with you.
That would be great. Well, thank you so much for joining me, Howard. And I will see everyone next time. I'm Glory St. Germain from Ultimate Music Theory. You can also join our Facebook group and also check out the Ultimate Music Theory YouTube channel interview and many others. So thanks for joining me. Have a great day, everyone. Thanks, Howard.